have everything you want, you still feel like something's missing. What is the deal with that? And how do you deal with the emotions of not knowing what is going on without feeling shame for yourself? Because we should have everything under control and we should know what's going on. And when we just worked so hard for decades and decades, referencing to middle-aged people here, we've worked so hard to get everything that you've wanted, and it still feels like something's missing. Well, that is signal interference that you are feeling. And that signal interference is in relation to your inner anchor point that helps guide you to your true north. And the funny thing about the true north is that your true north is kind of always changing. It's always there, but then you have your anchor point, which is always there, but also kind of always changing. And so the goal is to find our anchor point and to find our true north, and then realize that everything that happens in between is just the in between, and it doesn't really matter. So when we spend our whole lives striving for survival and maintaining, trying to build a legacy, trying to provide and protect, doing all these things and still feeling like it wasn't enough, but we just worked so hard. What do you mean it's not enough? What do you mean this is it? This is all that I'm going to feel? Like, how do you go forward with the second half of your life when you feel like, hold on, I'm looking down at some notes for a moment. It's funny. The notes make sense when I read them, and then when I go back, I'm like, I am so lost. Let's see. Yeah, I guess I didn't write down the part that I wanted. So the point is, we spend a lot of time working and striving to reach a goal. And then when we reach that or complete that, and we're like, what's next? And then that feels kind of empty and confusing and shameful also, because we expect to see something of production after our decades of hard work. And so when that doesn't pan out because we were just too busy on actually surviving, then we start to feel a lot of weird emotions inside. And that's the misalignment. Those are like engine misfires. And that's what we're here to address. And this channel is called Awaken with Deb. I'm Deborah Kaye. And the awakening aspect, it's more about finding clarity. So we're here to find clarity within the confusion. And I might actually completely change the name Awaken with Deb. It's been almost 10 years. It's been like 10 years now. And I think it's taking a new direction. So that's exactly my point here, is new directions. The generations that are midlife and pre-retirement, going into retirement, these generations right now weren't prepared for the world to look like how it does. And there's this gap that's been created where people weren't told that climbing the success ladder isn't going to fill that inner void, because it's not teaching you how to light up your inner soul. Oh, I really wish I read a lot of notes and then I wrote down some, and I feel like I just wanted to write down everything that I was going. There was so much coming in this morning. Been up for hours and hours. This whole week has been a lot of downloads. So when we reach a certain point in our life and we see the accumulation of what we've done and we see the result of it, and maybe we have reached success. We've either reached success and we're like, oh, but I still feel empty, or we haven't reached success and we're just like, what am I doing wrong? I'm trying and trying and trying and I still just feel, ugh. So those moments are your signals that your nervous system is out of alignment with source and collective. And looking at this from a scientific point of view, think of us as one big electrical circuit board or an engine. And if one little piece is kind of off, then the rest isn't really going to work. So we need to go from maintenance mode to legacy mode. That's what we're missing. We've been living in maintenance mode and we're getting those sparks, but we want to live in legacy mode. So is that upgrade to the electrical car from a regular engine? I don't really know. But when you're feeling off and restless, feeling off, that's your key word there. That feeling off. If we're talking electricity and circuit boards here, you're switched off. You need to find what switches you back on. And through finding what switches you back on, like those controls, those drivers, those motivators that help you get turned on, makes it sound different, that helps activate your inner soul, those are going to change through time. Those motivators and those drivers are going to change, right? When you're 18, you're motivated to get an education, or you're motivated to experience freedom, and maybe at some point you end up with a family, and then that's your drive to succeed. But then what happens when that family dissolves, right? What happens when you finish your education? What happens when you reach your goals? Well, you make new ones. You realize that the beauty is in forever being a student. There never is a ceiling. You can always change where the floor is, but there never is a ceiling. So we're really switching our direction towards clarity and internal coherence so that we can find that anchor point that's going to help us stay sturdy as we find our true north. Like, life isn't linear. Like, if your north is up here and you have an anchor point, it's not gonna, like, anchor point in an ocean, right? That anchor's digging down in. And as the ocean moves, the tether is going to move with the ocean. And the true north is going to be the surface level of the water. But that surface level of the water is always going to be moving also in waves. Sometimes it's going to feel down. Sometimes it's going to feel up. And so even, that's why I say your true north is always going to also change, because it's constantly going this. And then everything in between really doesn't matter, because that's just the path. It's that anchor point. That anchor point of knowing who you are, of where you came from. And then the fact that the sky is the limit, that's just your permission slip to step out of your identity. And when we recreate our identities, it's not as awesome as like, oh, okay, I've done this now, and now I'm going to go do this. Because every time you go and do this, or you go and do this, every time you level up, every time you add a new hobby, sometimes you have to make room for that. And that's going to mean letting go of your old identities. That means letting go of the old stories of success that you've held on to. A lot of people are in retirement, like when they were employed, they were able to say, oh yes, I do this, this, and this. And then once you're retired, it's I did that. But what are you doing now? I was in a work training recently, and as an icebreaker question, they asked, if you could retire right now or tomorrow, if you could retire, what would you do? And the question wasn't if you won a lot of money. The question wasn't if someone waved a magic wand, what would you do? The question was if you could retire. And they didn't call on me, and I didn't respond in the chats, and they didn't call on me verbally. But my question would have been to them, well, what do you mean retire? Define retirement. Because in my world, whatever he meant by retirement, like, I was baffled. You know, some people are like, oh, I would travel, oh, I would go do this, and in my mind, I'm like, retirement is a strange and odd concept. And honestly, I think we would do a lot better if we would just kind of erase that word from our concepts, because I think it is a made up fallacy, and it plays into the systems that somebody else made for different generations. We are here to create our own systems for new generations, systems that make sense. And people that are going to be building those systems are the current middle-aged people and people that are, by the time you're middle-aged, if you're in a company, if you've been on a career path, you have influence, you have power. And if you're feeling stressed and like something is off, that's because it is. And we have a responsibility to notice that and to change it, or not even change, but just implement new systems. We don't have to worry about breaking down the old systems, but just implement new ones. And the results will speak for themselves. So that's the direction that we're going with this. We are here to create new systems with clarity, with structure, with a groundedness of an anchor point that is super bomber. And if you're into like I'm from adventure sports, so I'm really enjoying this theory of an anchor point because I just got goosebumps. My mind was going to slacklining and highlining and climbing and rappelling, and like you have anchor points for these things, and those anchor points are what save your life. If you're on a high line and your anchor points aren't bomber, that tiny little, like you think that tiny little rope is going to be what breaks or fall, what's going to break as you're walking on it and bouncing on it, but it's not. It's always the anchors that break. So you got to build your anchors sturdy, diligently. That's it. I guess that's it for today's video. Recalibrating our nervous system to understanding our anchor point, to guiding us to our true north, and figuring out all the noise in between, getting some clarity from it all, because we know we need it. So if you're still here watching on this channel, this message is definitely meant for you. You wouldn't be able to perceive that which of you are not a vibration to. So thank you for witnessing, and I hope this message absolutely resonates in your soul to help catapult you onto a new journey, which is going to will involve grief, mostly. I mean, it can. I'm not going to say will. It's possible it's going to involve grief. And that's something that we all need a little more clarity on also. So, again, this channel is Awaken with Deb. And make sure you like, comment, subscribe, because it helps the channel out. It helps the message grow. And yeah, I'm Deborah Kaye. Have a blessed day.